Feels like we've been talking about it since the day we drafted him, but the day has come for the debut of Billy Fink. He's gotten some really good upgrades this season, and between triple and double A, he has just over 400 at-bats. He has 133 hits, 28 doubles, 6 triples, 25 home runs, and 88 RBI. That's the kind of production that could really boost this offense. And here it is, a look at him in the Pirates threads as he will make his MLB debut at the end of August as we try and get a final push towards the playoffs this year. But it's not just Billy Fink. David Yan is back from injury. He's played just a little bit over 10 games. He's had a really good year as well at the AAA level so far this season. Up to an 80 overall. He will also be making his MLB debut today. Can the double debut of Fink and Young save the Pirates season? In terms of where they will be hitting in the lineup, Fink will be our leadoff man with Yan in the 6th spot. Fink will also be hitting leadoff against lefties, whereas Yan will be promoted to the 4th spot since he's so much better against left-handed pitching. All right, let's see these two play some Major League Baseball. We technically got a little bit of a sneak peek of this during the spring training live stream, but now the games really matter. 62 and 72 here to start the episode, making their debut in Oracle Park here. You'd love to do it in front of the hometown fans, but to do it in one of the, in my opinion, at least the most beautiful ballparks in the league is certainly good enough. Here's an updated look at our prospect list. And I'm not sure if it's going to ultimately be enough to help the team this year, but I'm not calling these players up strictly for this season. I think regardless of where we were this at this point in the season, this was around the time they were at the very least going to be September call-ups. So maybe they're getting called up a week before they would have otherwise to try and get the boost a little bit sooner. But my plan all along was to make the debuts for both of these players during this season, late enough in the season that they would not use their first year of MLB service time, because that will factor into, potential extensions down the line, maybe as soon as this offseason for these guys. Is this a strikeout for Fink in his first Major League at bat, unfortunately? But I wouldn't have rushed these guys up to try and save this season if I didn't think they were ready. But at 85 overall for Fink and how well he's played both in double and triple A this year, Robles gets thrown out. Great throw there by Bailey. I would never sacrifice, the long-term outlook for a prospect just to save a season that's, even if we did make the playoffs, we don't really have much of a playoff run hopes, you know what I mean? And so these guys have been ready. They're right on track with the plan all along. But if there is a chance for us to make the postseason this year, it's going to be from a boost from Fink and Yan, I think. Last episode we made some changes in-house among our 26-man roster, benching some guys, promoting some guys. Didn't really seem to work. So it needed to be a promotion of, ultimately, I think you could argue Fink is already the best well-rounded hitter on the squad. I think Jazz might be better against right-handed pitching, but then Fink is more well-balanced, whereas David Yan against lefties, which we're not going to see here going against Keaton Wynn, is already really good. And then against righties, he's solid. He's better than the catching options we have offensively for sure. Neither player able to get a hit on the board for their first at-bat. Fink trying to get his first hit here. It's not going to be handled. Over in left field. Off the wall. Extra bases, and not going to try to go for 3 here. Billy Fink with his first career major league hit. Here with his second plate appearance. Really well struck ball there for the double. David Yan back up to the plate for the Pirates here in the top of the 4th. We're going to watch every at-bat for these guys in their first series against the San Francisco Giants here and see how much of an immediate impact they can already make. Billy Fink back-to-back hits here after a pretty good battle against Wynn here in the 5th. Can we get a first RBI on the board for a David Yan with his first hit? A runner on second base. Not going to get a hit here, but he will draw a walk. That is maybe even his biggest strength as a hitter right now, is he has really high discipline in the high 70s already. Going to be a guy that's going to be able to draw some walks for us, and the same goes here for Billy Fink. He actually hasn't gotten a lot of development in his discipline so far this year, unfortunately. David Yan down the left field line. His first major league hit comes in the 8th inning. So both guys reach multiple times. Yan with a hit and a walk. Billy Fink with 2 hits and a walk so far this year. Sorry, this game here in their MLB debuts. I think they've both been impactful here. Fink trying to extend the lead, but he gets underneath this one. So the score will remain 4-3 heading into the bottom of the 9th. Jojo Romero comes in and does enough. I don't even think, if I remember right, he got the save for this. It was James Waylock who comes in and gets the save in the end. But Pirates win in the MLB debut of Fink and Yan. But like I said, we're going to watch all their at-bats here of this series. A little bit of a side storyline for this episode. Jazz Chisholm is on a pretty impressive hitting streak right now. 18 games, and spoiler alert, he would get a hit right off the bat in inning 1 of this game as well. Billy Fink getting things going at the leadoff spot. A leadoff double going against Logan Webb. If you're curious about Webb's ratings, he is currently a 90 overall and the best player in the Giants organization. So not going to be an easy guy to get hits on, but didn't stop Billy Fink there. In fact, the Pirates offense would enjoy a pretty solid first inning, as David Yan would get an appearance in the first as well. Top of the 3rd now, 2-2 pitch for Fink. Inside on the hands, and that's going to be a grounder over to 3rd to retire him, but he already has 3 hits aboard. Yan will ground out over to second base, the force out at second. Gets him retired. Not as much going on hits-wise with him. A flash of the glove at shortstop. I thought we had a chance at Billy Fink's first RBI there, but we'll have to wait a little bit longer. Pirates extend their lead to 3-0 here as Yan is back up on the plate. Mishandled his shorts. And Yan doesn't have excellent speed, but has enough to reach via an E6. Should have been an easy play at shortstop. And that is maybe one concern about Fink playing short right now, is the defense at such an important position isn't quite there yet. I think by the time he is more fully developed, Fink's defense will be just fine, but I think we are certainly taking a little bit of a step back from Willie Castro, who we've had at short for the last couple of seasons, to Billy Fink And that hit right there looks eerily similar to what he did in the first inning. And there you have it. The first run batted in the career of Billy Fink. Comes in his second game here in the 9th inning, giving us even a little bit more of a cushion here, trying to finish off this game. Fink looking really solid. At this point, I just want to see if we can get his first home run of his career in the third and final game of this series against San Francisco. This time Romero would come in and get the save. 43 saves for him. He continues to impress in his Pirates debut season as our closer. And the Pirates take a 2-0 series lead. Into game 3 now. This time we'll be going against Jordan Hicks. He certainly has some impressive stuff as a pitcher, an impending free agent, which will be part of the offseason coming up shortly. It depends how quickly, depends on, if we make the playoffs or not. 0-0 here after a couple of innings. The Pirates would add 1 run on the board as Billy Fink's up here, and that sweeper got him chasing well outside the zone. Maybe you're seeing why he hasn't really developed that discipline all that much this year with a swing like that. 2 gone here, top of the 5th. Still a 1-0 ball game. Fink on the ground and retired. Into the 7th. We're seeing a pitching duel here. And Jan, a little bloop single. Reminds me of that Cardinals game. If you know, you know. If you watched last episode. Felt like there were like 5 Cardinals hits that looked pretty much exactly like that. But it's a lot more fun when it's on our side, getting those hits. Can Billy create some offense for the squad here in the 8th? Not going to happen this time. As another ground out for him. We're going to take a quick detour on our side quest here to announce that Jazz Chisholm is officially ended his hit streak right there. Had a 19-game hit streak going and fell 1 short of 20. Which is unfortunate, but still, got to be happy with him going on a 19-game hit streak here. As almost thrown off the bag, but David Yan will not get help with a second error. The Pirates, though, do end up sweeping the Giants with a 1-0 victory here. Jojo Romero, another save on the board, and the Pirates, as of right now at least, are undefeated in the Fink and Yan era, although that would not last for long. Spoiler alert. Getting now to September, I think it's time to give Bubba Chandler back a spot on the Major League roster. With Yohan Oviedo pitching well, I think he will just be a long reliever for the rest of the year, and then maybe entering back into the starting lineup next season. But unfortunately, a couple of weeks later, the Cardinals just ended up getting on a really hot streak, and we just couldn't really break out of playing pretty much 500 baseball. At this point, there's only like a handful of games remaining, and we're 9 games back. Not going to happen for us this year, but there's hope for the future for sure. Let's take a look at our minor league prospects and what the year-end numbers look like for some players. We have some guys that we had to call down from our MLB team here amongst the top players, but Albert Sweeney ends up down across the board except for power versus righties. He did get a pretty big boost there, but overall he did go down in his hitting stats. He hit 20 home runs this year, but just an average of 220. Struck out 100 times. Hasn't quite been the progression I was hoping from Albert Sweeney in his first 2 years. I will admit that. I still think, however, he might just need to be up at the MLB roster next year because we need somebody to take over the Josh Bell role of playing first base against left-handed pitching. And I just think that might be a role that we try to save some money in and go for somebody that we're paying only, $780,000 for instead of several million trying to find an option on the free agent market. So turning those 20 homers into an MLB debut next season, I think is certainly in the cards for Albert Sweeney. Termarr Johnson ended the year on a cold streak, but I think played pretty well for us this year at AAA, and he's somebody who we got to start thinking about when's the best time to bring him up, because it is not too distant in the future. Really just rock solid numbers across the board for him. Doesn't have anything that jumps off the page as an immediate strength, but he's just so solid across the board. And could he be our best option at second base next year, or maybe even shortstop, and we move Billy Fink to second base? Because Termarr Johnson's defense is certainly stronger than Billy's at this point. I still think I want to keep Billy at short for now, but Termarr, could he get some looks at second base as soon as next season, with Nick Gonzalez having a disappointing year and Triolo, who we'll talk about in a minute, not really doing incredible either. Buford Kingman gonna end up losing power this year, despite that being what we were training him on. He just didn't have a great year. Only 8 homers on the board and a slugging of 388. So didn't quite produce power wise, maybe what you were hoping for. An OPS at 724. Another guy who just maybe out of the virtue of us moving on from O'Neal Cruz and us opening up an outfield spot might be getting a debut next season, kind of alongside Albert Sweeney, where just based on the nature of our roster, could that be a spot that we save money, $780,000 at one of our outfield spots? I certainly think that could be the case. I also think his ratings look pretty solid for sure. And good enough for him to at least be a contributor at the major leagues. Hunter Barco up to 75 overall. He pitched really, really well at AAA. You could argue he is ready for the show as well. Bob Gomez, could he be an addition to the bullpen? And again, maybe a money-saving move. 2.53 ERA this year. And a 1.33 whip, 38 saves to 6 bunt saves. He was the closer for the AAA squad. I don't think he'd come in and be the closer for our team, the Major League squad, but 73 is certainly good enough to make an appearance in the bullpen. That is for certain. Next up, you have Richard Lynn. Got +5 to his walks per 9 this year. He pitched extremely well, with a 2.41 ERA and a 1.11 whip and a 1.1 WAR as well in his 67 innings pitched, where he struck out 59 batters. Diego Mosqueda. We have a lot of these low 70s pitchers that are probably ready to at least get a shot at the show. Mosqueda is certainly one of them. Another guy with the high hits per 9 but low pitching clutch. But he did get a +5 to his pitching clutch this year, which is a clutch upgrade for him. Moving on to AA, where we have Pedro Ponce is still recovering from that torn Achilles tendon. These are his final upgrades for the season. Didn't end up developing his contact versus right at all, but he got his season cut short, only ended up with 237 at-bats, did solidly in them. Nothing special by any means, but a solid first season of development for Ponce. A +4 to his overall when all is said and done. Robinson Brown here ended up having a pretty good year against left-handed pitching, despite being a lefty batter. The arm, I wish, went up a little bit more, maybe a double +5s I would have liked to see here. But he hit for a 281 average He stole 20 bases for us at the on the AA squad. Definitely could be somebody that gets a call up to AAA next year. Pete Good got a +5 to his overall and a +7 to his pitching clutch. Really awesome stuff there. I think we might even get to the point next season where we switch off training him in pitching clutch because he's gotten really solid upgrades there through his first 2 seasons. He pitched well. Another guy that is certainly getting close to that AAA call up, probably sometime next season. Connor Griffin, the 2024 first rounder. Really solid development across the board there. We have Carl Womack up to a 66 overall here. And our AA team, just as a side note, has won the division series, or won in the playoffs. They've been the champions all 3 seasons. Both seasons, and they're playing for it again this season, I should say. So our AA team has been absolutely incredible here in the first 3 seasons of this franchise series. Another good year for them, but I think they're going to get a lot of their talent poached next year, with probably these 2 outfielders and maybe also Pete Good getting promoted, although they will get some additions as well from our draft class. Guys like Thomas Coyle will probably be in AAA, if not the MLB squad, by the time the year ends anyway. But there is the kind of year-end update for some of our minor league players. Now, these might not be kind of the final upgrades because there will be playoff games as well for our AA guys, but they'll be minor if there's anything else added to any of these guys' skill sets. 75 wins for the Pirates this season. I believe our opening day projection was 84. So we don't quite hit that. I think my projection was more high 70s, so still fall just short of that. But I think this was around kind of the caliber of team I thought we would be, maybe a little bit better this season. Let's go ahead and take a look at where the players ended up for us, starting with the pitchers. Paul Skenes, I think, had a bounce back year. The whip was actually pretty similar. Nowhere near where he was in year 1 with a 103, but the ERA dropped by a full point pretty much. So you love to see that. Didn't quite strike out as many players, but did much better at limiting home runs this season, and was the highest wins above replacement average of his career so far, with a 4.5 wins above replacement. Jared Jones ended off the year really strong, ends up with a career best ERA. So there you have it. I wanted him to play better down the stretch of the season, and he absolutely did. Especially, I think, towards the very tail end here. Rough game against Philadelphia, but some good numbers down the stretch for sure. 1.32 whip is actually a little bit higher than last year, but the wins above replacement is much better. Strikeout rate improved, walk rate improved, home run rate improved, FIP improved, just all across the board. And he's up to a 90 overall. I think that is pretty close to his max. I believe his A potential is a lower A potential. So I don't know how much room he has to grow, but I'm liking the player that I'm seeing right here, the ratings, and I'm liking the season he had. Now he has 2 years left of arbitration to go. I don't really see a scenario, even with this hot stretch. I'd love to re-sign him, but I think he's going to be asking for so much money that arbitration might just be the way to go. Although if we want to keep him long term, this is probably the season to lock him up, because if we wait any longer, he'll probably ask for more money than Paul Skenes. So that's going to be an interesting offseason development. It kind of will depend on how much money we have and if there's somebody we want to spend it on externally or if we want to keep it in-house. And even there are competitive in-house options with Billy Fink and David Yon if we want to be very early on their extensions. Mitch Keller ends up with that sub-3 ERA and the 1.15 whip. Really, really good season. 2.6 WAR here. Did great limiting walks and got his potential increased up to A. As for Keller here, just one more season left on a contract with us. He's pitched so well that it's hard to imagine me wanting to let him go. But this pitching staff has some guys whose decisions are in the very near future. Jesus Luzardo, probably, I think you'd have to look at this and say a bit of a disappointment in his first season with the squad. 4.65 ERA, 1.38 whip. He still actually had his second best WAR season of his career, believe it or not. Looking at these numbers, they aren't bad. I mean, his FIP is actually 3.7. So maybe just the numbers look worse than they were in reality. But he's going to be back in the rotation next year for sure. The interesting decision here is on Yohan Oviedo. He actually got his potential up to matches overall this season after delivering 2 pretty solid seasons with us. He's just a free agent, though. And I don't know if at this point we can retain him. I think we have options that'll be cheaper in-house to replace him. One of those is Bubba Chandler, who struggled this season, but is just 24 years old. And so he's had excellent seasons in AAA to the point where I think, this 63 inning season isn't gonna change my long-term outlook on a guy like this. Just walked a little bit too many guys and maybe gave up a few too many home runs. And that's it for our starters. Jojo Romero as our closer here ended up with 48 saves on the season to just 6 blown saves. He had 45 strikeouts in his 59 innings, 3.66 ERA and a 1.39 whip. Just did a great job not allowing home runs, and he's kind of been that way for the entirety of this franchise rebuild with all the teams he's been on. Maybe going quickly here through the bullpen. James Waylock in 118 innings ended up doing really well, even though I think when we hopped in a couple of times, he didn't look amazing. I mean, Sim's really great, and you love to see that. 127 strikeouts in 118 innings is really awesome, and he got a +3 to his strikeouts per 9 because of it. I think getting him back in that trade is looking pretty nice after just one season. For some reason, they put Moreta down to AAA. I mean, he did not have a good season at all this year. And so there might be a question as to whether or not he's coming back for sure, especially with some of this young talent that we have, I think, ready to start coming up here in the bullpen. Catcher-wise, 76 at-bats for David Yon this year. Really good, like a minimum of +3, just kind of across the board for him. Did pretty solid in his 76 at-bats. He'll be a rookie for us next year. High expectations for him, especially, when he's hitting lefties, he's going to be really good. But I think he's good enough against right-handed pitching as well. And the defense has gotten to the point where it's at least kind of on par with a guy like Andy Rodriguez. Rodriguez still a little bit better, but it's close enough that you'll take the offense and, of course, the long-term upside of Yon, I think, moving forward. Henry Davis, it wasn't all that impressive in his 140 at-bats this year. Andy Rodriguez wasn't bad by any means. It's not like I was rushing to replace Andy Rodriguez, and that's why we brought up David Yon. I just think David Young's an awesome prospect. I'd be fine with another season of Endy Rodriguez if we had to have it. Josh Bell, another guy that we demoted apparently, but he hit 26 homers for us this year. I ended up bouncing back a little bit. I know he was struggling at times for us this year, but he's set to depart from the squad this season. Spencer Horwitz, 18 homers and 262 average for a 750 OPS. So kind of in the middle of his 3 seasons that we've had so far in the rebuild. I think good enough to hold the spot for now, but certainly a spot that I wouldn't be opposed to trying an upgrade this season. I don't think we got the production that we were hoping for out of second base this year. In fact, both these guys hit exactly 209. Of course, Nick Gonzalez had twice the at-bats, even a little bit more than that. But second base, I'm looking for more production from that spot, and it could come from Termarr Johnson. Jazz Chisholm. What a debut season for Jazz Chisholm with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Ends up cracking the triple digits for RBI for the first time in his career. His career high by a wide margin, previously 78. He got 11 more home runs in his previous career year as well. Just worked out better than I possibly could have imagined. The 900 OPS, I would have been happy if he broke 800 OPS this year, just based on what he's kind of done in recent seasons. Didn't quite break 900, but I think he had a cold streak at the very end, so he was above 900 until the very end, and had that 19-game hitting streak that unfortunately ended in this episode, but 6.2 WAR, easily the best of his career. I don't know if he'll ever be able to replicate this season going forward in Pittsburgh Pirates franchise, but I think this season alone already has to be a win for that contract so far, as long as he can, even again, if he could just be around 800 going forward, I'm certainly going to take it for Jazz Chisholm. Willie Castro, set to be a free agent. I think we're going to let him walk. I haven't been super impressed with what he showed us in his 2 years in Pittsburgh. Figueroa here, 261 with a 719 OPS. He had 222 at-bats. I think he played pretty solidly, enough that I think he can be another DH against lefties maybe next year, as well as somebody that can play in certain situations off the bench. Brian Reynolds gave us a really solid year this year for sure. A bounce back season. Not that he wasn't even all that bad last year, but over 800 OPS this year. Back up over 20 home runs, which is the streak that he ended last year. Just good stuff all around from Brian Reynolds. The savvy vet continues to be a staple in the Pittsburgh Pirates franchise and will be once more. What can be said about O'Neal Cruz, other than the fact that he's played his last game in a Pirates uniform? This year was definitely the breaking point. Ended up getting benched last episode, and you can argue, and certainly some of you did, that it should have been much sooner than that. So I don't even know how much trade value he has at this point. I wouldn't honestly even be opposed to just letting him walk in the off season, but it kind of depends on how much value he would have elsewhere. Victor Robles, I'd say I was a little disappointed in. Ends up -7 contact versus righties. He developed a ton against lefties though, +20 total between contact and power, which helps him be a little bit more well balanced. He was definitely right-handed pitching dominant coming into this season, and now all of a sudden he can hit both at a pretty similar level. He'll be back with us next year for sure. I really like what he showed us out in right field for sure. So good enough defensively that I'll take these offensive numbers with the defense that he provided for us this season. And that pretty much wraps up where this team performed individually. But let's go ahead and talk about some team rankings across the board. In terms of batting average, your Pittsburgh Pirates were 24th in the league. Still not nearly good enough in terms of scoring runs. We were 26th, even worse. In terms of doubles, getting that extra base, 21st. And Jazz Chisholm he's going to lead us in a lot of these stats. He was by far our best hitter this year. I mean, Brian Reynolds was also really good, and he led us here in triples. In terms of going yard, the homer, 22nd. Only had 2 players hit 20 plus. 1 player hit 30 plus for us. How were we at stealing bases? We were actually really good here, 43. I mean, I should have mentioned that when I talked about Victor Robles. He's a great base stealer. Jazz Chisholm, I think, did some good work for us there this year. And we'll see what kind of value that I don't know how his name is escaping my mind. Billy Fink. Well, I don't know. We'll see what kind of value he can add to us. And then in terms of drawing walks, we were 24th. Strikeouts, we were pretty solid there. And then slugging, let's do slugging. The Pirates were 23rd. So let's go ahead and switch now to pitching. Actually, let's see where we were fielding wise. How good were we at avoiding errors? 21st. Okay. Not the worst. 15th in terms of ERA this year. Honestly, I probably expected that to be a little bit better if I'm being honest. In terms of saves, we were 7th. Blown saves, how good were we there? We were tied for 6th. Allowing hits, the pitching was not very good at all, honestly. 25th. In terms of runs allowed, we were 11th. Okay, not bad, not bad, not bad. How bad were we at home runs allowed? We weren't going to be great here. 17th, okay. Walks, 19th. Strikeouts, 6th, okay. And there you have it. So, as we head to the off season, we've got some decisions to make, including what to do with one Billy Fink. Oh my goodness, plus 14 power versus lefties. He hit 5 home runs in his 97 at-bats here. That's actually insane. How did he get that much? I mean, he hit a lot of homers for sure this season between coming to the league and what he was able to do in the minor leagues. Didn't develop discipline, which is kind of weird, but great development elsewhere in this profile. Looks like just an absolute monster going forward offensively. The face of this offense, he and Jazz Chisholm going forward, I think are going to be the guys you think about when you think of Pittsburgh Pirates offense. Do we pay the man? I think he played so well at all 3 levels this year. It's hard to say no. And he's already an 87 overall, though. Like, what kind of discount do you think you're going to be getting with a Billy Fink? That is a good question, and one that we'll have to answer this off season. That's all I've got here for the episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back soon with another. And until then, let's go Bucks.